Steven, am I wrong to assume that both of the Elite Eight games that were played yesterday should have been played at Chase?
Yes.
I am wrong?
Why would you want to assume that?
Because I did.
You thought both the league games were being played?
So I didn't put two and two together, but we all got credentialed at KMBR to go to the Elite Eight games yesterday at Chase. And me and Copes were talking about it on the radio. And he was like, yeah, it'll be cool to see Texas Tech and Florida. Then I'm like, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Duke and Alabama as well. And he goes, yeah. And didn't really get into it that much. But I was, getting drinks with the guys yesterday before the game.
Boy.
And I kept saying, like, yeah, the two games are going to be awesome. And then everybody's like, yeah, no, they will be, Derek. And then I went in, and as is for most places, they have a cutoff time for alcohol. So it's kind of late in the second half, and I'm walking around. I'm like, oh, they're shutting down all the concessions. I don't know what the hell they're doing here. So I go up to one of the places, and I'm like, can I grab a beer? They're like, well, you better make it fast. We're closing up soon. I'm like, why are you guys closing up? There's another game being played.
Oof.
And the guy's like, looked at me. He goes, what the hell are you talking about?
Ooh.
Curly comes over, and he's like, yeah, dude, you have to get your beer now. And I'm like, why are they closing this down? We still got Duke and Alabama. And he's like, no. Oh, my man, no. That game's not being played here. I was like, are you shitting me? I thought both games were here. So I had to tell the group, like, I thought we were here for a while, guys. I guess we're leaving after this. And they're like, oh yeah, this is the only game today. I'm like, God damn. I thought we were getting both games.
Good Lord, Derek. How did you not know?
I just assumed. You figured that both games would be played at the same venue.
No, you didn't, because it had a very specific structure. Did you not pay attention to where the Sweet 16 games were being played?
I probably should have, but I didn't. And I realized that it was the West Region Championship. Yeah. So yeah, it makes sense that it was taking place at Chase, while I guess Duke is in the East. They had theirs in New Jersey yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. There was one, I think the Elite Eight in with Michigan State, and I'm already forgetting the other team. I think it's Alabama. Auburn. Thank you. God, you're going to see a lot of Janelle Broom, but with Michigan State and Auburn, you're going to see that, I think, in Atlanta. Like, it's wherever the Sweet 16 games were taking place, the winners were going to play at that same location. Man, that must be, beyond the mistake that you made. That sucks, because you were probably looking forward to seeing kind of a transcendent generational talent in Cooper Flagg.
I know. I was just talking about that. Everybody thought I was kind of being crazy. Where I was like, yeah, it'll be awesome to see Cooper Flagg today. And they're like, yeah, yep.
Yeah. No one could gather that you actually thought that it was.
I probably should have said early on, like, yeah, it's awesome to watch two games a day, and someone could have stopped me and be like, oh no, bro, that other game's not being played here today.
Ooh, yeah, that's unfortunate. But
well, there were two games played on Thursday. That's why I thought that. But obviously, now it goes to different venues. So,
what was the experience like?
It was awesome, dude. Went to Chase, or Thrive City, as they call it, and walked around. When we've gone in the past for our harmonic shows, never had a chance to really like roam around and look at different areas. Mm-hmm. The new Splash place that they have, that place looks awesome. Looks like a Dave & Buster's. They got everybody doing Pop-A-Shot and just big TVs. So that seems like an awesome place to watch games.
Yeah. They need to put a sports book in there.
Yeah, they do. They do. Well, once we get it legalized here, which I doubt. Yeah, walked around, hung out Harmonic. Good place. Our guy Jimmy hooks it up for us always. I haven't gone to that pizza place. That's kind of like you should have like a good view from there. Like they have like the bar. I think it's called like Pizza and Fuego or something, but that's a good area too. As far as the game itself, it was awesome. It was pretty packed. We were credentialed. We didn't have seats, so we just kind of roamed around the whole time. But no, Florida and Texas Tech was an awesome game. Florida came back and ended up winning, and they're your West champions. And then, we went to another bar afterwards. Thought we actually get to see Cooper Flag up close and personal, but not the case. I went to North Star in North Beach and watched Duke beat the crap out of Alabama.
You know, I would have been really sick to watch the Arkansas Texas Tech Sweet 16 game live at Chase. That was epic, dude. That was one like I had like zero sleep on Wednesday night. So Thursday night, I was planning on like going to bed pretty early. It's like, all right, we had the Giants already play. You know, we don't got the Warriors till tomorrow. Like I'm going to bed early. Like unless these Sweet 16 games give me something. And then you're seeing, you know, Duke and Arizona's clawing back a little bit with Caleb Love, and then, you know, Duke kind of took over. But yeah, with Arkansas and Texas Tech, you just couldn't take your eyes off of it after they came back from that 16-point deficit. And it's, I don't know, Kevin Harlan is in like that same tier as Gus Johnson, where it's like if they're on the call, some crazy shit's gonna happen. like there's always something wild that happens with those two guys on the broadcast. Maybe I'm just only noticing it because they're so damn good in those moments, but it feels like whenever they're calling a game, something crazy goes down. And
well, they bring the most excitement. I think that out of I would say Iron Eagles in that ballpark too, as far as like great, like exciting announcers. Like dude, what I guess Gus Johnson only does college football now.
Yeah.
Which makes me miss him for the NCAA tournament because he was awesome at that.
So good. So good.
Yeah. But there was a stretch there where Gus Johnson for NFL games. I mean, there was the Stokely. Wow.
Yeah. But even with NFL games now or college games now with Joel Klatt, like there's usually something crazy that happens.
Yeah, usually.
He did do, I think he did, you know what? He did do women's college sports. I know he did. He was on the call with, he was on the call with Caitlin Clark, breaking the record for like all-time Division I points in like college basketball history or whatever. It was unfortunate because she was at the free throw line. So I'm sure Gus had something in the holster for that one, but couldn't unleash it because, well, it's just, all right, free throw breaks the record. Like there's not much to that. But yeah, and also shout out to Kevin Harlan. I don't know if I saw somebody kind of say like I thought he was paying homage. I saw people complaining a little bit about it, but Kevin Harlan doing a Holy Toledo.
Oh, like he was doing a Bill King?
He was doing the Bill King. I think he was paying homage to it. And I was kind of disappointed with Stan Van Gundy not noticing next to him that he did that. You know, I would have pointed that out.
You think he was?
What?
I don't necessarily know if that was 100% paying homage to Bill King.
I think it was.
I mean, if anybody would do it, Kevin would know that, and he's in the Bay Area. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I just when I heard that call, I just didn't right away correlate it to Bill King.
Kevin Harlan doesn't say Holy Toledo.
That is true.
I can tell you that.
That phrase is not usually in his vernacular.
We've all listened to Kevin Harlan for a very long time. I don't think I've personally ever heard him say that. I mean, if someone else can call me out and prove me wrong on that, then feel free. By the way,
I'm just curious, like, he's done so many Warrior games. Why wouldn't he have done it then?
Right. But I don't know. That's a good point. It's a very good point.
Klay Thompson, one time said "Holy cannoli," and we all thought it was weird, but he never said it again. You know what I mean?
I'm sure Klay says that behind closed doors.
I'm sure he says it a lot these days. God, I signed with this team and Luke is gone. Holy cannoli.
By the way, we are getting – so what we're seeing right now at the stream, we're getting like a few viewers, but our little thing acted up. Our software acted up. So really we have more than we're being told right now. We got a few
that's
on
good.
Twitter. We got a few on YouTube. I think Rockin' New Era is the only one of the usuals that is coming in here, so we don't have that many of the usuals in this morning, but anyway, I just wanted to clear that up. But Derek, I'm turning a new leaf in my life.
How's that, Steven?
Well, went to the Sharks game last night. Didn't expect to.
That's why you're wearing the hat.
Well, no, I had this new one and I needed a haircut first. It looks stupid when my
That's
hair is
why you're
wild.
wearing the hat. I got it.
But anyway, but we went last second, and Jesse's telling me there's going to be a cool giveaway, so this is good. And we ended up like getting free tickets or whatever. And I'm Derek. I'm not going to lie to you. I've kind of hated this style. I've kind of judged it, but I'll be upfront. I was wrong. I was wrong to judge this style. I might be a fanny pack guy now.
Oh, really?
Dude, I might be. I mean, like, it's just so convenient, dude. You got the pockets right there. You just zip it up. Boom. Wallet. It's like a man purse.
Oh my God, Steven.
I might be. I might be.
You are turning into middle-aged dad.
Dude, big fan of it. Big fan. You
wow.
Keep your phone in there. You keep your keys. Big fan of the fanny pack now.
Okay.
Over the shoulder. It's stylish, dude.
See, this is where, like in real life, like you become the Geico commercials where you turn into your parents, and I have to be the guy to be like, Steven, what are you doing?
Have you been out to a Gen Z millennial event in the recent years, Derek? This is not a parent thing. This is a young person thing.
The fanny packs are coming back.
The fanny pack across the shoulder, in the middle of the chest.
Then that's not a fanny pack.
Then what is it?
I don't know, but I wouldn't characterize that as a fanny pack. Fanny pack has to be over the gut.
Not necessarily. I mean, so fanny pack is defined. This is
a satchel. You have a satchel.
Okay, well, I'm a satchel guy. Consider me a satchel guy. Second
satchel page.
Yeah, number one is Satchel Paige, but second is this satchel. I'm a satchel guy now. This is also a really nice one. Sharks did well in their giveaways this year.
Okay, so you're gonna rock that going forward?
I might rock this, dude, or I might get like another one that doesn't have sharks on it. I don't need like a sharks based satchel, but I'm all in. I'm kind of I was feeling it. I've never worn one of these before, and I was just like, go down, get a little drink. Oh, you need my phone? Oh, you need my wallet? Oh, you need my keys? Oh, I don't have to go scrapping around my pockets to find them. They're right here. And they're safe. You never know with pickpockets these days, Derek.
Yeah, we do live in a heavy pickpocket area.
We do. I'm just saying.
So, Steven, I mean, are you having like a lot of back pain, or are you having like, is there a reason why you don't want to have your wallet or keys in your pockets anymore?
No back pain, no pain.
Okay.
No pain. Although Jesse,
you just like the satchel or nurse, like whatever you want to call this.
I think I kind of like it, and Jesse also has made me realize my phone's pretty dirty. Like it's gross. Like
yeah, me too.
You keep it in the pocket all the time. It's got dust everywhere, and I never really noticed it before.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're like if you're a female and you carry a purse around, you're probably not going to have to deal with this problem. But if you're a male and you keep your phone in your pocket at all times, yeah, check out how dirty it is. I've never realized it until Jesse really pointed it out. It's made me all self-conscious.
Yeah, no, my phone's pretty dirty, but yeah, Steven, I think that with you being married, you could pull off the satchel or fanny pack, whatever you want to call this. For us single guys, not a good look.
Just saying. No, it's a good look, dude.
You think so?
It's convenient. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I just don't think that's a good stylish thing to walk around with a fanny pack.
I feel like
their own.
I feel like I'm Joey from Friends. There's an episode where where Rachel styles him up, and because she works at a Ralph Lauren or whatever, and she styles him up, and she ends up getting him this purse, and it's just a straight up purse. And he's like, you can carry all of your stuff. And it's like, I feel like that right now.
Yeah, so Friends really stole from Seinfeld then, because that's a whole episode of that where Jerry is wearing a carry-all, and then everybody tells him it's a purse.
Yeah,
and then it gets stolen, and then everyone calls him a fancy boy.
Friends was better executed. What?
Did you ever even see that Seinfeld episode? How the fuck would you know?
See? What season's it on?
I don't know.
because I was going through it consecutively, in chronological order, and I'm on like the 7th.
Seinfeld's not a show that you watch in chronological order.
Yeah, that's stupid. 7th, I think. I'm a 7th season.
Sure.
So yeah, there you go.
Oh, that it was after Friends?
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh.
I'm talking about I'm talking about where I'm at in Seinfeld.
Oh, I got you. I got you.
All
right, just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. We're talking about satchels and fanny packs and whatever the hell you want to call those things today. We'll talk a little bit about some football, some baseball. Baseball's back. Giants are going right now as we speak. Robbie Ray on the mound. I think it's still 0-0 if I'm correct, Stephen.
Yeah, this game's moving by real quick.
What inning are they in already?
They're in like the 4th.
Damn, okay.
Or I think they're going into the 4th right now. They just got done with the 3rd.
Quick for a getaway day to go to Houston. We'll talk a little bit. We'll talk some basketball as it pertains to the Warriors and Western Conference in general, because a big move was made on Friday. And we'll talk about, I do want to get to Jackass of the Week. And it's a topic that's been at the forefront in sports this week. A beef between two big individuals. I think you all can guess what I'm talking about, but we'll get to it a little later. We had a good time doing the baseball preview show with Walter, the Giants preview show, and that day, the Russell Wilson news of him signing with the New York Giants broke. So we didn't get into that. Let's get into it real quick, just because I think it does affect the Raiders. So yeah, Russell Wilson signs with the New York Giants. It's a 1-year deal, $21 million, 10.5 guaranteed. And no surprise here. I thought he was going to end up in New York, just because Jameis Winston signed with the Giants a week ago didn't mean anything to me. I thought, he'd always be the backup quarterback. So now they have Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Tommy DeVito. And I'd say that's an improvement over where they were a year ago with Daniel Jones and who else? Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito there. But the question is, does this preclude the Giants from taking a quarterback at 3? And I've been thinking about that, like, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, they need to save their jobs this season. So what's the best course of action? Is it to go forward with veteran quarterbacks and Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, or have also the option of the franchise quarterback in Shedeur Sanders? What is the priority? Is it to win this season or to set up the franchise for success for the long-term future? I think for those two guys, it's to save their asses for this season. So maybe signing Russell Wilson means they don't need to take a quarterback at number 3. Maybe they're good. I'm going back and forth with that, because if they neglect to take a quarterback, then you're like, what the hell are you doing? This is one of the few times where you'll be this high in the draft and you're going to pass on that.
Yeah.
My thinking is, I'm not 100% on this, but maybe they're like, we need so many things this season. We'll come back to quarterback later. We have our starting quarterback for this season. Let's draft Travis Hunter or whoever at number 3, and then possibly Shedeur Sanders is still available for the Raiders at 6, because after that, the Patriots not taking a quarterback, the Jacksonville Jaguars are not taking a quarterback at 5. If Shedeur does slip past the Browns and the Giants, I still think there's an avenue for the Raiders to select him at 6.
Yeah, see, I think completely opposite. I think completely different. I think there's a correlation here. I don't think it's any coincidence that Russell Wilson was signed the day after Cam Ward had his pro day. I think Cam Ward's going number 1 overall to the Titans.
Yeah.
I think Shedeur is going number 2. And I think the Giants are just signing Wilson as a safety net in case Shedeur's not there and both quarterbacks are taken, and then they go a different avenue. I'm fully convinced of that. And I think Tommy DeVito is no longer going to be on the roster. I think the Giants are for sure taking Shedeur at 3. There's no way you can go into this season with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston a year after you were just embarrassed with the Saquon Barkley deal. And you're going to go with 2 aging quarterbacks. One of them is heading to an analyst, potentially fun pregame show role with Fox, while Russell Wilson is just going to be, fun hip hop dad. Like I like, like with Sierra, I don't know.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Like, I just think it was a total
wearing a fanny pack.
Yes. I think it was a total safety net move. I think they're just covering their bases here in case Cam Ward goes 1 and Shedeur goes 2. I don't think they're keeping Tommy DeVito around at all. And if you know what, if they can't go with him and they end up getting the 3rd overall pick without a quarterback, like Wilson's a capable guy, but I just don't really know what they would do. You'd really want to roll in there with Wilson and Jameis and then Tommy DeVito as your 3 quarterbacks?
Yeah, I'm with you, because to rely on Russell Wilson for a potential playoff season is not the best plan.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, if Russell Wilson struggles and you're relying on Shedeur Sanders to save you this season, I don't know if that's a good plan either. I think they're screwed either way. I think that Brian Dable and Joe Schoen most likely will not be back after this season, because I just don't see them having quick success. Who knows? They could be the Commanders and they could hit on Shedeur and he's awesome from the get-go, but I highly doubt that.
Yeah.
I wonder what the Browns will do in number 2, because they definitely need a quarterback, but their situation is so fucked with Deshaun Watson, and he's going to be on the roster. They can't cut him with the situation they're in, with him having the Achilles tear. I also think that the Kirk Cousins situation is interesting, because he, I guess, told Albert Breer found out from his camp that Kirk Cousins is not going to drop his no-trade clause until after the draft. He doesn't want to be, surprised like he was a year ago when he signed with the Falcons and then they, drafted Michael Penix. He doesn't want to get drafted or get traded to a team and then be like, oh, okay, you already got my replacement, which I think Kirk Cousins at this point in his career needs to realize that wherever he goes, most likely he's going to have a replacement pretty soon. Right. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Same thing with Russell Wilson. That's why, like, these last moves with these quarterbacks, they're bigger names than they are, impactful quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Like Russell Wilson's a huge name, Aaron Rodgers is a huge name, Kirk Cousins. But at the end of the day, them going to teams, I don't think is going to impact them being, playoff teams. Like I thought the Giants weren't going to be a playoff team before they got Russell Wilson. Now signing Russell Wilson, I'm like, I think them is the same. I think they'll just have some competent quarterback play. They'll be a little bit better than what they were a year ago. Mm-hmm. But no, I don't see any vast improvement. But to my theory, yeah, I go back and forth with it, because I kind of do expect them to still draft a quarterback. So if I had to guess right now, yeah, I think all 3 teams in the top 3 teams of the draft, the Tennessee Titans, the Cleveland Browns, and the New York Giants, all would have taken Cam Ward had he been available. And Tennessee, talking glowingly about Cam Ward and I guess having like a private workout with him is all you need to know that they're going to take him number 1. Mm-hmm. With the Browns, I go back and forth. They definitely could take a quarterback. They could take Abdul Carter and pair him up with Myles Garrett. Yeah. And then trade for Kirk Cousins. That could be on the table. Also, a lot of these teams could see the second round and be like, there's Jackson Dart, there's Jalen Milroe. Let's wait for then to draft a quarterback. Mm-hmm. With the Giants, yeah, probably the smartest thing to do so they can cover their ass when it comes to quarterback play is to take Shedeur number 3. But then I'm hearing like a lot of teams don't think Shedeur Sanders is worth taking number 3, that he maybe he's a second round pick. And I think the only team that's really has been high on him are the Raiders. They always have been, and maybe that's just the infatuation with Mark Davis. And I like the Geno Smith stuff. Yeah, they traded for him, but still no contract extension. I think that getting a franchise quarterback is probably more important than, drafting Ashton Genty at 6th or another position. I go back and forth with it. I do think at the end of the day, the Giants will draft Shedeur Sanders at number 3 if he's still there. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if he drops and if the Giants just say, we need to win this season. So we got Russell Wilson. Let's draft just a sweet player, maybe try to Travis Hunter at number 3.
Yeah, maybe. I think we'll find out more on April 4th when there's Colorado's pro day too. I think a pro day can just change everything. I mean, you see Boise State, Ashton Genty is just built like a human brick. Like that dude is, man, he's shifty. Like if I know you think the Raiders taking him too high, taking him at 6 is way too high because there's other positions of need that they need to fill. And you may be right about that, but God, man, I think any team that gets him is going to be truly lucky. I know you were put off by like a game that he had against a good college football team. I'm not going to use that against him and what he can do in the pros. I think he's going to be a very, very good NFL player.
I wasn't put off by it. It was just like, okay,
But
that's the best.
You said in the last podcast, you use that as like your prime example as to why the Raiders were taking him too high. Come on.
It's just something to bring up. It's a con. I'll get into it more. I need to watch tape on Ashton Jeanty, Steven, as I get into my draft guru phase.
You bring up tape. That brings me to my next point. We're not gonna bring this into an argue about Ashton Jeanty show.
We'll get there one day.
Should this be a red flag? And I don't want to steal from this podcast, because this is where like they use the same software that we do, and they did the thing where they like share the video and both of their screens pop up on the sidebar and like the video comes up. So I don't want to like replay like a podcast playing a video, but this one, it's one that's been kind of going around. Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. Of course, the Raiders could take him 6th, and he's likely going top 10. So there is a podcast going around, or a clip going around, and I don't want to like steal from. I'm not going to play it. I'm just going to use a photo here.
Okay.
But this was the video that circulated on Twitter. It's like a YouTube video of McMillan that a podcast found. And he essentially said that he doesn't like watching film. He never watches film. He doesn't watch it individually. He only watches it during wide receiver meetings, but he doesn't need to watch film. He doesn't care. He doesn't watch football. Is that a red flag to you? Because a lot of Raider fans are being put off by this right now. I was looking up it just popped up on my Reddit feed
this morning. Not know this.
Yeah, it popped up on my Reddit feed this morning, and it was like,
do we have the original clip where he says this?
I can try and find it. I don't know where it's at, but it's from.
I would love the context.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's a red flag.
Yeah,
I would say if you're not willing to do homework and get better as an athlete or better as a pro, yeah, I would say that's a red flag. I think that the best wide receivers in football all watch film. Like, you see all the exclusive shows where they take you behind the scenes of how guys prepare week in and week out. And Devontae Adams is always watching film. I mean, like in that whole receiver show, they watched like they showed all the receivers like in a dark room, getting their clickers and going through like their progressions or not progressions, but like their footwork and how they run routes and everything. Yeah, no, Teteroa McMillan needs to be watching film. Yeah, no, it's not a huge red flag, but it's one where you're like, okay, you're just not God's gift to football. You're not perfect. You need to get better. And honestly, you said he's a top 10 pick. I don't know about that. I need to watch more of him, but he definitely is a physical receiver, but I don't know about the speed. He's not particularly fast. So that may make him fall out of the top 10.
Well, this also, okay, now
I'm
getting a little bit more of the context as I'm searching through it. I don't have the exact clip, but I found the video. It's from one called Stew in the Stew, and they have like
Stew in the Stew in the morning.
Stew in the Stew. It looks like they have some YouTube video. We're dissecting this in real time. I kind of love it. He has this documentary called Off Season, and it looks like he followed McMillan around. And honestly, he looked like he's just trying to be cocky for the camera. Like, this is a year ago. This is over a year ago. So maybe his mindset has changed going into the NFL. Like, hey, dude, like someone sat him down and said, look, man, you got to watch film. Like, this is the NFL. This is, if it's college football, that's one thing. He could just use his skills because he's 6'5" and has crazy good hands.
You play off pure talent in college.
Yeah, but you gotta watch film when you're in the NFL. So you got to learn that. So if he doesn't watch film in college, maybe that is a red flag going into the NFL, because studying game film and knowing what to do and knowing what to work on based on that game film, is a skill. So I'd say on drafting McMillan, I wouldn't be mad if the Raiders did that. Absolutely not. But I think that is something to monitor. If he, for whatever reason, looks like he's kind of overwhelmed by NFL defenses, I think we know why. But this video is from a year ago, so there you go.
Okay. Yeah. If you recently said that at like a combine meeting or anything, I'd be like, oh, that's not good. And someone needs to get in there and tell him like, you got to be a pro, bro. You need to watch film. But if he's having fun for the camera, like a year ago, then yeah, I think that's probably taken out of context. And I would say like for college QBs, it's important that they watch tape. For everybody else, position wise, still need to watch tape, but yeah, you need to make it a priority when you get to the NFL. That's why I like the Carson Beck. Remember that, the Carson Beck quote where they asked him like, "Do you watch football as a fan?" He was like, "Not really. I really just watch, tape. That's how I like really watch a game and dissect it and look at the all 22. Watching it on TV, you don't really get a good grasp for it."
Right.
And fans were like, "Well, that's so weird. Like, how does he not appreciate it as a fan?" And the reality is he sees it as a job, which I kind of appreciate more.
Yeah.
Home run Ramos.
Ramos with a bomb. Yeah, man. This I'm kind of glad we got to the bottom of this because I kind of just looked it up and I said, ooh, all right, this will be something interesting to share on the podcast. And then you see it's from this YouTuber who posted this over a year ago. So this is pretty unfair, actually, now what we're doing to McMillan, and I'm accountable in it. Almost. Yeah.
I would say bad planning by you, Steven. You had a big red flag planted, and now you got to pick it up.
I was proven. Tetaroa, I apologize.
All right, that's fair.
Bottom of our hearts.
Now, here's one thing that I would call a red flag.
What?
Ashton Genty having his workouts, but he's not running a 40 time. Why not? It's not the biggest thing in the world, but like, why? You have nothing to prove, and he probably doesn't. It's the same thing with Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. He didn't do anything, and he was still taken, 4th overall? So I get that, but, everybody runs a 40 time.
Maybe it sucks. Maybe it sucks. And but like 40 times are not I'm not judging running backs on a 40 time. Like, I don't need them to have a strong 40. I need them to have a strong burst to get to that next level. Do I want him to outrun defenders? Yeah. But it's kind of reminding me of Josh Jacobs. Jacobs was always super shifty, super quick, super agile. But then when you get beyond that second level, he would get chased down a lot. I don't even know what his longest touchdown is, but he doesn't have a lot of them. Like,
I think it's the 84-yard touchdown run against the Seahawks in overtime, but that's because they had great blocking.
It's not a Saquon situation where he's going to outrun every defense, and you might be seeing that same thing with Janty.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, I never thought that he was a guy that had just, jets or just electric speed. It's how he runs. He's a bruising runner. I need to watch more of him. I mean, he was electric in college football this season. It's just that, as I said before, I just think the Raiders have so many needs to take a running back at 6. He could be a generational player. He very well could be the next great running back. But I would say in recent years, Jahmyr Gibbs went 6 to the Lions, and he's a game changer. He's been awesome for them. Their offense is predicated on the running game, and the Raiders want to do that as well. At the same time, would you say Bijan Robinson has lived up to expectations being taken, 5th overall?
I'd say that Bijan, wasn't it 7th? Whatever. Or is he just numbered 7? So is that making me think it's 7th?
Yeah, I want to say he was taken 5th overall by the Falcons.
I'd say Bijan was done wrong from his head coach, his rookie season. I think he definitely, the numbers don't speak to it, but Bijan does some things weekly where you're just like, my God, this guy's unreal. Yeah. So I'd say he's lived up to expectations so far. Do the stats show it? No, but I don't want to go by just the stats. From what I remember, his rookie year.
Sorry, he went 8th overall.
What?
He went. Sorry, we have this all backwards because people. I keep saying that Jahmyr Gibbs went 6. He did not. Bijan went 8th to the Falcons. Jahmyr Gibbs went 12th to the Lions.
Right. Okay. And even Jahmyr Gibbs, people had question marks about. But then, Gibbs went and proved everybody wrong. Like, I remember that draft, and everyone's like, that's one of the most head-scratching moves. Lions taking a running back at 12. Well, look what happened. No, I think Bijan's lived up to expectations so far. I just think he was kind of coached poorly when he was with the Falcons his rookie season. So, yeah, I'd say he has.
I'd say yes and no. I think that he's one of the best running backs in football right now. One of the best, one of the younger running backs of football that's, pretty good. You'll draft him high in fantasy. But yeah, I mean, for 8th overall, I can definitely get behind that. For 12th overall, I can get behind that. For 6, with the Raiders are, I think that's just a reach. I think that they need so many other things. They need cornerback help. They need defensive line help, wide receiver. I just can't see them taking Jahmyr Gibbs at 6. I think every mock draft I see is the Raiders taking not Jahmyr Gibbs, Ashton Jeanty at 6. And I just think John Spytek, with the way that he thinks, I doubt he's going to go that way.
How do you know how John Spytek thinks?
With the way that he was describing how he does, evaluations of players, and just the way that they've drafted with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the past, which is where he's from, I would highly doubt he's going to take a running back at 6. I know that Pete Carroll wants to run the football. They will. But you could get a running back in the 2nd round and still be fine, I think.
Yeah.
There's another running back in this draft. I think his name is Omarion Hampton.
Yeah.
A lot of people like him too. I know that Ashton Jeanty might be that guy, but I think the Raiders need so many other guys that it makes sense to get a position that you would normally draft that high at 6.
Yeah, but Derek, I'd push back on saying Spytek knows a thing or two about running backs. How good have the Buccaneers running backs been these past few years? Not very good.
Yeah, he waited later on. I mean, Bucky Irving wasn't bad.
Bucky Irving was great. Bucky Irving's great.
Rachaad White's not bad.
Rachaad White's terrible.
I don't think he's terrible.
He's pretty bad, Derek.
He's not one of the best running backs in football.
I think Bucky Irving's better. He got played out of a spot when he had it locked in. Like, he's pretty bad.
It's dual backfield, Steven. They have multiple guys.
I've had him in fantasy, Derek. He's not very good. Trust me. I've watched a lot of
I wouldn't take him in fantasy.
I've watched a lot of Rachaad White, Derek. I've watched a lot of Rachaad White. I'm not basing it off points here. I'm saying I've watched him a lot. He's not very good.
Yeah. And who else do they have? Rondell Jones, and they traded for or picked up Leonard Fournette.
Bucky Irving's awesome. I'll say that. Bucky Irving is sick. He's going to be a good starter for a long time.
Yeah. I know. He definitely is. See, that's the thing also. He hasn't valued running backs in the past. So why would he now, as far as the draft? I think that he'll get one for Pete Carroll, and the Raiders desperately need one because I don't love Raheem Mostert and who else they have on the team right now. I can't even name it, but the running back situation's not great. So
we'll see. I mean, he was at the pro day. So if he liked him enough, I mean, I don't know how much a pro day is going to sway things one way or another, but if they met him individually, if they held a private meeting with him, it all depends. Like, there's so many more factors that go into it than what we see just on the television screen. So,
right. Yeah, I would be surprised at this point. And I've been watching the quarterbacks, and I'll get into it a little bit more next time around as we get into April, and I start breaking down position by position in the draft. Oh, yeah, Steven. Becoming a draft guru again.
Oh, God.
Going to give you my expertise on which guys are going to be good. Because we all know by looking at tape or highlights how all these guys are going to fare. We all know.
Yeah, I forget every time. And also, while you were rattling that off, I was looking at our viewership numbers, and they were declining as you were going through them. But we'll go through it anyway.
No, you're lying. They actually gained just by a little bit, though. Real quick, I know I said by the next time we're on this podcast, Aaron Rodgers probably signs. He hasn't. And this thing is just ridiculous, and I'm over it. I'll just say this. With Russell Wilson signing with the Giants, most likely Aaron Rodgers is going to sign with the Steelers. When's it going to happen? I have no fucking idea. But I think that all the NFL owners are meeting right now at the Breakers in West Palm Beach. I've been there with my mom. Awesome place. Beautiful, luxurious hotel. And I think they'll do their usual lawn photo in the next couple of days here, all the coaches, where they wear their Honolulu shirts. Yeah, so we'll dissect that. And I think Mike Tomlin's supposed to speak today. So if there's any fun, he's always great when there's something that the media wants to ask and he's tired of it. So I'm sure he'll give a classic quote today.
Or he'll just stare off into the distance and just walk away without answering anything.
That'd be awesome too if he just sits down. They usually do this during like a breakfast, and it's past that point right now. So maybe they don't do this anymore. Oh yeah, Tom Pelissero actually said they don't do like a. You ever seen that in the past where coaches are like eating their eggs and they're like, "So Belichick, what's going on this season?" Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to eat my scrambled eggs here. You guys leave me the fuck alone. Or like, and then Kyle comes in looking like he's hung over his shit, just drinking a Bloody Mary. So I can just see like Mike Tomlin just digging into his pancakes, being like, "I'm trying to eat my pancakes here. You guys keep talking about Aaron Rodgers, all right?"
I think he's going to retire.
You think so?
Get him out of here.
You're just tired of the story. I want him to play. I want him to go out a little bit better than what he did a year ago.
Why?
Because I think it'd be interesting to watch him with the Steelers. If he goes to the Steelers, I'd be like, all right, I'm in. I'll watch. I don't think they're going to, they'll go to the playoffs. Will they win the Super Bowl? No.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what Rodgers has anymore. How could we talk about this? That Rodgers is just not. He's taken a wild, gigantic step back, and he's not the same anymore. And he can't move. Yet you think they can make the playoffs with him? What are you talking about?
Well, they made the playoffs a year ago with Russell Wilson. I think that Aaron Rodgers right now is a tad bit better than Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's true.
And maybe. I'll relate this to Justin Verlander. I think that, I think when you get to the point where you're 40 years old and you have one season, all it takes is just one season to have an injury, and then it just piles up. And then you never get back to where you were before. So I think that's the same case with Rodgers, but I think he could do just a little bit of what he did in the past to make the Steelers a good playoff team. Same thing with Verlander. I don't think he'll ever be the same pitcher that he once was. But he can throw a 95 fastball. He can, he's working with the curveball now. He's got little things in his arsenal. You like that?
Look at you.
I know.
You analyzing Justin Verlander's pitching arsenal.
He got it from, he was talking to Scooball this offseason.
That was Robbie Ray, wasn't it?
It was both of them.
Oh,
I think so. Yeah, more so Robbie Ray. You are right, but I want to say Justin Verlander talked to him as well.
Also, does the Bay Area claim Scooble? He was born in Hayward. That's it. He was born in Hayward and moved away real quickly. Do we claim him?
You have to. I don't know. I would assume so.
I'm just wondering. Do we claim Scooble as a 1-year Hayward guy who grew up literally just in his infancy in Hayward, then moved away?
Now, if you're here for 1 year, I don't think that you could be really a Bay Area guy.
Right. It's like
does the Bay Area claim Corbin Burns? Not really.
No, that's more Bakersfield. Big Derek Carr and Corbin Burns country down there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he went to St. Mary's, right? Corbin Burns?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyway, with Aaron Rodgers, I think he's just waiting it out. Like yesterday, I saw that Jeremy Fowler on ESPN was like, I think that some people believe that there's verbal commitment from Aaron Rodgers that he'll sign with the Steelers. He just hasn't done it yet. So maybe that's the case. I don't know. Some people think that he's waiting to announce everything on McAfee's Big Pittsburgh show, which I highly doubt. Because how would that not get out at this point? I also think that if you listen the other day where the Vikings GM, I'm going to do my best to pronounce his name here, Kwesi Idoffa-Mensah, he basically didn't close the door on Aaron Rodgers. He was just like, we're going with J.J. McCarthy for now, and we'll see what happens. That would take a lot of waiting. That would take, OTAs and after the draft for them to be like, all right, this isn't panning out with McCarthy. Let's call up Rodgers. Also, if you're Rodgers, the Vikings told you we'd rather go with J.J. McCarthy right now. So isn't that kind of insulting a little bit? And I know it's probably the best situation, playing a dome, better team, better conference. Don't have to worry about Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, or Josh Allen. But they're basically telling you, we don't think you're better than a 23-year-old, basically rookie, who's never played before. He's much younger than you. We have more faith in him than you right now. So if I was Aaron Rodgers, I'd be like, all right, Minnesota would be a better situation, but fuck you guys. Steelers believe in me. I'm going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but they also wanted a veteran quarterback, right? I also think that was the Vikings kind of telling him, like, look, man, We want someone who's here who's willing to compete with a guy going into his second year. Rodgers wouldn't be willing to do that. No. Rodgers is going in expecting to be a starter. So I think that's where they were at an impasse. And like, I also think the Vikings didn't want the headache. They don't need the headache. He is a headache after all, like at least with what the media does, not with the team necessarily. It seems that players really do like Rodgers.
No, he's a good teammate.
He comes off as a very smooth, kind of cool operator when he's out there. Does he
smooth operator?
Does he blame his teammates on the field? Sure. Does he, is his body language looking like it's always someone else's fault? Absolutely. Yeah. But behind the scenes, I think he comes across as kind of like a veteran leader, and he probably would, heighten the confidence, I guess, of the Steelers, if I'm putting it in some sort of just terrible way. Heighten the confidence? What the fuck am I talking about? Yeah, raising their confidence,
Either way.
So I'm tired. So maybe it'll happen, but just get it done. I'm tired of it. So I want him to retire just so we don't have to keep talking about it. And okay, I thought Willie Adames had his first Giants homer. Just foul.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see. I don't think he's retiring. I think that he's going to sign with the Steelers, and I think that he's. I have no idea. I'm done predicting when he's going to sign, when it's going to happen. I thought it would already happen at this point. I understand why he wants to go to the Vikings. I don't think that anybody would see him as a headache. I actually think Kevin O'Connell likes him a lot. It's just that, with what they planned for, they didn't even sign Sam Darnold back. It would have been much better for them to sign Sam Darnold back to have a chance to win a Super Bowl, in my opinion. Now you're going into a season where, kind of with, going from Jimmy Garoppolo to Trey Lance, you're just saying we drafted this guy at 10. We need to see what he has.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that it's either play for the Pittsburgh Steelers or nothing for Aaron Rodgers. So we'll see when the hell that happens. Speaking of the Giants, they're playing right now, still 1-0 in the top of the 6th. So what do you think of opening day, Steven? Giants get the win. They have 17 strikeouts. It was looking like another one-run loss. I gave you the stat. By the way, I need to clarify. That stat I gave you and Walter last time.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You guys could say something in the moment of how ridiculous I was sounding.
I didn't know in the moment, but when I wrote a blog for the Just Your Blog Man or Bay Bridge Sports or whatever I'm calling it, I looked it up and I saw they were 24-24 in one-run games last year.
Yeah, no, I
forgot
shouldn't trust StatMuse on everything. I don't know.
You trust StatMuse?
Yeah, you ever use StatMuse?
Yes, Derek, I have.
Yeah. Sometimes they're reliable. In this case, they were not. When I typed in, what's up?
Such pretty pictures
of StatMuse.
Yeah. Ooh, they have artist renderings of players.
They do.
Let's look that up.
But they sometimes have good stats. And in this case, for whatever reason, they gave me the wins when it came to one-run games. But they added up all the losses of the season. So when I said the Giants were 24-82 in one-run losses, that would be insane. That's not possible.
Yeah.
It's all the losses they accumulated throughout the season. So, yeah, Steven, the correct stat is the Giants were 24-24 in one-run losses a year ago, while the Cincinnati Reds were 15-28.
I don't really buy the notion that last year's team wouldn't have won that. They would have been dead in the water. No, they came back in a lot of games last year. Like, there was 80 wins to choose from. It's not like they would have been totally dead in the water in that situation. We saw that all the time. How much did we see that with, early on in the season, especially, where it's like they get a couple of runners on and then Chapman 2-run dinger. Like we've seen that before. It's just the Giants couldn't do it consistently. And as far as what I'm seeing now, unless they win more than 5 games before the month of September when they're completely out of it, then they still have something to prove to me that they're a different team. Right now, they're playing pretty well. Obviously, if their pitching holds up, they're probably going to take 2 of 3. But the thing that I like so far about the Giants is their bullpen. I think their bullpen is looking really solid, and I think this is a big test here because it was a couple of straight games of it was rough yesterday. I know Spencer Bivens ended up getting the loss, but I think their bullpen is looking really good right now. But if I'm going to feel any differently about this Giants team than I did last year, Derek, they have to string together at least a 5-game win streak before the month of September. Like that was what was craziest to me. Like, God, their longest win streak was 5, and it happened when they were pretty much out of the playoff picture and it was pretty much set. Like that's where I need to see something different this year. And also, like another crazy stat that I saw is Giants pitchers rarely gave up home runs last year, at least in the league. I think they were like, as far as I don't know how to put it. If you want to put it like bottom 4 or top 4, they were bottom 4 in the league in home runs given up, meaning they gave 4th fewest in Major League Baseball. Yet they were still up there in runs. They gave up like the 12th highest amount of runs. So limit the base hits, pitching staff. That's what I want to see from them this year. They look good so far, but I just don't buy into that notion that this team last year wouldn't have done that. Like this, I know this team stunk when they were with Farhan and it felt lifeless, but I just don't buy that. I just don't buy that.
Well, you wouldn't have Wilmer Flores having a clutch home run last season because he rarely played a season ago. Was it 70 games played?
Correct. Yes.
So it was good to see Wilmer Flores come up clutch again, and I think the stat is he has 7 career home runs when it's in the 9th inning or later. So it was good to see him with what he went through. He went yard yesterday too. She's got 2 home runs on the season, along with Elliot Ramos.
And Ernie, I'm sorry, we got Ernie in the chat saying, "What about the bacon? He needs the bacon numbers." Look, Ernie, I'll give you the batting average.
Bacon.
I'll giving you the batting average on contact numbers in due time. I can't do it in 3 games. That's too small of a sample size. Bacon, Derek.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm not going to be. I'm not going to be a whip guy or a WAR guy. I've learned OPS and all that shit, but no, I'm not looking up all those stats.
Whip and WAR are pretty telling. Like,
nah.
I'll give you this. I'll give you the that deeper analytics don't really mean anything, and I've kind of grown out of that now. I was all about it when I was because I read some book on the rise of analytics, and I was all like Mr. Hoity-toity about like how it's used for development and all that. So I'm like looking deep into the numbers, and sometimes the numbers might give you something where it's like, man, he's got something. He's just been getting some bad luck, but I think whip and WAR, those can be pretty important. I'll give you everything else, but like I'll give you like the BABIP. You don't need the batting average on balls in play. You don't need the expected batting average. You don't need all of that. But Derek, you should whip and WAR. That's pretty important. So I'd use that. That's a good one.
It's just, I don't know. It's not. I'm not a QBR guy in the NFL when it comes to that shit.
QBR is a fabricated stat that was made up for ESPN.
Exactly. So wins above replacement. What the hell does that mean?
It means that you are just that much better than whoever the next guy is that would take over at your position.
Okay.
So it's basically telling you that, okay, you want to take this guy out? Well, look. Just it's a pretty telling number, Derek.
Yeah. I think we could judge baseball players based on their hits, RBIs, batting average, strikeouts, home runs, all that stuff. OPS
you're not going to see a lot of that. So you got to go deeper into it because players don't hit RBIs anymore. They don't hit the baseball, Derek. That's why analytics is such a popular thing, is because hits and RBIs have gone way down. That's why I don't
like it, because I could give a shit about analytics. Numbers do lie, by the way, too. Stats are so overrated in sports altogether. It really is the eye test. You have to watch and get a feel for how these guys are actually playing. Regardless of how I hate baseball stats, yeah, I would say right now, the Giants, Kruk and Kuiper talking about it today on the broadcast. They win a game where they struck out 17 times. They lost a game yesterday where they struck out once. That's just the way baseball goes sometimes. I don't think we should freak out over the 17 strikeouts in the first game. They struck out 16 times against the New York Yankees a couple years ago. There was a season where they started, I think it was 2023. They started off just hitting home runs or getting strikeouts.
Yeah.
And that's just what happens earlier in the season. But as far as Logan Webb and Justin Verlander, I would say Logan Webb had he struggled a little bit in his outing. Justin Verlander looked okay yesterday. I don't think the starting pitching has been particularly strong of late. I haven't seen Robbie Ray today. I think he's looked pretty good.
Well, there's a goose egg on the scoreboard for the Reds, Eric. How's that stat for you?
Okay, I think that's pretty good. What he's got, like 4 strikeouts?
Yeah. Oh, what? Now we're going with K's now. Ooh, stats.
K's are important.
Eye test is telling me that he's doing pretty well.
I need to actually watch Robbie Ray. But would you say?
But this is the thing about baseball, Derek. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to like go off on a tangent here, but I think like beyond just the whole big picture doomsday, like what's going to happen with the Giants in the future. Like I think Dieter wrote a terrific piece for the Bay Area News Group where he was going to, kind of give his season predictions or whatever on the Giants and kind of talk about where they're at. But he kind of went into a soliloquy about just the sport in general.
Soliloquy, nice.
And I think the beauty of it, I think there's a lot of beauty in baseball. And for example, Matt Chapman, he just made a play where he just goes to his right, kind of slides to dig it out, and then just makes a beautiful throw to first. There's an art to it. There's romance to it.
Mm-hmm.
I like baseball because of its simplicity. I love that you can just go to games and kind of hang out with friends and you don't need to be keyed in on every pitch because it's not fast paced like basketball or football. And that's a big reason why people don't love it. I'm kind of with Dieter in that's the reason why I do love it. You have time to appreciate kind of what you're watching. Instead of waiting for the end result. And that's why I love that we're in baseball season right now. You could just throw it on. You don't have to be paying attention pitch by pitch and psychoanalyzing everything unless you're in sports talk radio. But
it depends.
I'm very, very, very happy that it's back. And I thought that because Chapman just made that play.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, starting pitching. What?
Well, I was going to ask, taking Robbie Ray out of it right now because he is pitching very well, but I haven't actually seen what he looks like.
Right.
Given what you saw so far with Logan Webb and Justin Verlander, it's early on, but would you say both guys, I would say more Logan Webb was kind of meh. Justin Verlander, kind of what you expect, but he started off strong. I would say towards the end, not so great.
And Robbie Ray just gave up a 2-run homer as
we speak it.
Wins? What? Austin wins. Wow. How about that? Giants legend.
Austin wins. The ultimate revenge.
The ultimate revenge. Wow. How about that? Incoming Austin wins revenge game tweet in 3, 2, 1. Who gets it first? I'll be keeping track of that as we're going. Alex Pavlovich. We'll find it. I'll find the first one. There's gonna be someone saying Austin wins revenge game.
Yep.
There's going to be.
If I had to guess, that's something that Alex Pavlovich, I could hear him saying, be like, "Yeah, it was the Austin wins revenge game."
So, full disclosure. Again, I was at a baby shower yesterday, so I didn't really have time to watch Verlander. So I can't really tell you what we saw from him on Saturday. Obviously, I saw the final stat line or whatever. But I can't really tell you much from that. Webb does this every year. He starts out very slow, and then he eventually gets into a roll. So I'd give Webb a little bit of time, but Webb's he's like a kind of like a scientist out there. He's just so methodical to me. I don't know. I love the movement on his pitches. I love that he pitches for contact, doesn't pitch for strikeouts. Big Logan Webb guy.
Okay, all right, and as he was a guest on your Raider podcast back in the day.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you tell someone that you're not going to talk baseball at all, and you're only going to talk about something that they really have interest in. I mean, obviously baseball's number one, but he's a huge Raider guy. So I was like, Hey, man, we're a Raider podcast if you want to hop on and just talk a little bit of Raiders.
Maybe we should try that again. Maybe Logan Webb will be down to talk with us if we just talk Raiders.
Oof. Back-to-back dingers. 4-3 now.
Ooh, yeah.
I think we changed it.
On cue, talking about the starting pitching, and I'm with you too. I didn't watch Justin Verlander yesterday. I saw the highlights this morning. He seemed, encouraged with the fact that he was pitching for the first time in a while, and he, at 42 years old, had a pretty solid outing. But he didn't like the way it finished. Obviously, gave up a home run. Like I said, it's not going to be perfect with Justin Verlander. He's 42 years old. I think he's just looking to, get through 5 innings, have, solid stuff, as they say in baseball. But, we'll see if he gets to 300 wins. We'll see how he does for this season and if the Giants sign him back. But, yeah, I would say my biggest takeaway from watching the Giants the last few days is the good vibes. Obviously, we can talk about the vibes. The good vibes from that first win of the season on the road to come back in the 9th inning with 2 outs. That's big, and that could be a jumping off point for the rest of the season. I think that, we always go to the Raiders in 2016 where they had the 2-point conversion against the Saints, and that catapulted them to having a great season where they were so clutch. I know there's 162 games in baseball, but having, that good vibes at the beginning of the season with the first win, that could mean something. For all we know, they lose this game today and they, lose, 2 out of 3 against Cincinnati. You're not looking at it as very highly. But one thing I did come away with, and this is just me not knowing baseball as much, but knowing sports, Willy Adames, he got his first hit yesterday, hasn't really had a huge impact on the team yet. But for a guy that had a pretty awful game to start, 3 strikeouts, 0 for 4, for him to come out of the dugout and be exuberant as he was with Wilmer Flores hitting his home run, that's something I didn't see in the past with the Giants, is leadership. And I know there's some guys that are vocal leaders like Logan Webb, but I'll be completely honest. I don't think there's a lot of lively personalities on the Giants, and I think that Willy Adames is the most outgoing guy I've seen in quite some time. And it's just good to have a guy who wasn't there a season ago come in and already be a vocal leader and, build up the guys around him. So while it wasn't like the most, the biggest thing as far as a talking point of the game, seeing that on Thursday, I thought was pretty encouraging for the future.
Yeah, it's why they signed him. It's because he loves the game. I mean, look, Adames is great. Hit 30-plus home runs last year, but he also had a 250 batting average. And that's not like he was – let's not act like he was hitting the cover off the ball and going 2 for 4 every day.
Or as Chris Russo calls him, Adames?
Is that what he calls him?
Yeah, he was on with Murphy Marcus the other day, and he was like, the Giants made some moves. They got Verlander, they got Adames, and the thing with Adames is
yeah.
I think he does it intentionally, honestly.
You think so?
Definitely when he was talking about the Jaguars GM Shad Khan, he was like, "Yeah, you got Shaka Khan over there." It's like, you know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, he really plays into the kind of fast-paced New York, just really steeps into that because even like saying bye to him on the phone as a producer was maybe my most memorable moment ever doing that.
Really? Saying goodbye to guests or just like producing in general?
Just saying, maybe in my whole radio career, out of all the things that I've done, well, it's just he was done and he hung up on Jolo and Dibs or whatever and put him on hold. All right, thanks, Chris. just gone.
Total opposite of our guy, Bubba. John Morosi, who will just we love John Morosi, but it'll be like, all right, John, that was great. We'll talk to you next week. All right, thanks, Derek. Thanks for having me on. It's always great talking to you and Bonte and Greg. And we always love talking about the A's and the Giants and everybody in baseball. And all right, we'll talk to you next week. Oh, and by the way, I want to give a shout out to this guy and that guy. And Derek, you made a great point today. Blah blah blah. Okay, we'll talk to you next week. Okay, goodbye.
Yep. I had a 5-minute conversation with him after he was done once into the commercial break because I asked him about being one of the first 2,000 people to use Facebook when he was at Harvard.
Ah.
Yeah. He went on and on about that. It was kind of wild.
But sorry, I went on a tangent there. But yeah, good vibes from the Giants in the first game.
Adamas. That's so good.
Dude, did you hear his rant? He went full LeBron. He even said it during the rant. Did you hear his rant about the Mets not giving his son a player for his West Palm Beach show?
No.
So Chris Russo's son is getting into radio as well, and the Mets have their spring training in Florida, and I guess he does a local show in Florida, and they were on the field before a game, and they're trying to get interviews, and they didn't give him any players, which, you know this, I know this, in radio, most of the time, PR people will say thanks, but no thanks. For Chris Russo, he never gets told no. So he went on like a 15-minute rant, just being like, you couldn't tell me. You couldn't tell me that anybody on the Mets, you couldn't give them Paul Blackburn? You couldn't give just one random Met player? What are we doing here?
I love Chris Russo.
And they're not going to get Soto. I'm not saying give him Soto, but somebody.
Anybody. Somebody.
Yeah, no. He's a gem. Honestly, initially, I was not a fan. But having met him and talked to him, he's not like Stephen A. He's genuine. He just, he thinks what he thinks. He's an old school New York guy.
You need him. I think you need him.
You need him on that wall.
I do. You don't need Skip Bayless. Like, you don't, no. Skip, you're done with FS1. We don't need you around anymore. Gone. Like, you didn't do anything good for this industry. But Chris, I think we need Mad Dog Russo around. I think I love the guy.
Now, do we need Stephen A? That's something we'll get to a little bit later. But before we get into all that, Warriors, they win on Friday over the Pelicans, 111-95. And, nobody on the Pelicans was playing. Zion was out. CJ McCollum was out. And for a while, it was a struggle. And it's a good tune-up game for Steph and the Warriors. But was I impressed overall with that victory? Not really. Not at all, to be honest.
When they started out 1 for 14 from 3, yet they were only down by like 4 points, I'm thinking, all right, they're going to knock a couple of down and eventually.
This is a preseason game, honestly.
Yeah. Like this, it was a non-starter for me. Like, I kind of turned it off like late in the second half. I'm like, all right, I don't need to watch any more of this.
Yeah, and for Steve Kerr to call it the most important game of the season, I was like, well, yeah, that's just because every game from here on out is the most important game of the season because losing to Miami and the Clippers winning on Wednesday night over the Knicks, that made the Warriors drop down to 7. And the Warriors could move up back to 6 tonight if they beat the San Antonio Spurs.
That's kind of the joke I made. That's kind of the joke I made on KCBS after he said, like, he's like, yep, biggest game of the season coming up on Friday. And I was like, yep, it's the biggest game of the season until next Sunday's game. And then the next game after that.
Yep.
And the next one after that. And then how about, I don't know, the regular season finale against the Clippers, which really it could come down to the 6th seed right there.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be the biggest game of the season.
That's just Steve trying to motivate the players. But
sure. Or also, he was kind of he seemed to be in a pretty good mood after that loss. After that one to
the
Miami one. Yeah, he seemed to be in a pretty decent, he was kind of not perked up, but he was just like kind of smiling. And there's some losses where he's just no nonsense. Like,
he had 5 days in Miami.
Yeah. But he's just like, well, you got to give them credit. They, shot, as many threes as they did, and they were 17 for 25, or 18 for 25, which no team really has done. So give them credit, move on to Friday's game. And he's like, kind of grinning. I don't know. Maybe he had the Miami flu.
He might have too. I highly doubt it because Steve's usually pretty focused. But I mean, tonight the Warriors could get back to 6. The Clippers are playing the Cavaliers in Cleveland, so that could be a loss for them.
Mm-hmm. The Warriors have the most winnable game today, like out of the 3, for sure.
Well, they'll truly be tested this upcoming week when they play Memphis, then the Lakers on Thursday. This is the first time the Warriors will see Luka. This will be awesome with the 2 biggest trades done before the trade deadline. Jimmy Butler going to the Warriors and Luka Doncic going to the Lakers. And then in a back-to-back, then they'll play the Lakers and they come back home to play the Denver Nuggets with Jokic, I'm assuming, back now. But with a back-to-back, you never know. And I think they should not rest anybody this week. If Steph Curry needs a breather, I say, love you, Steph, but fuck that. Like with every game remaining, there's 9 games remaining for the Warriors. He needs to play every game, especially when you got this gauntlet coming up this week where they have Memphis, LA, Denver, and then I believe the Rockets after that. So this will be their hardest stretch, I think, during the Jimmy Butler era. I will say, Jonathan Kuminga, he is definitely polarizing, and I feel like Warrior fans want him to get his shine more than see the team succeed. Is that fair sometimes, Steven?
I think so. Are you saying, like, is it fair to say, or is it fair
I think it's fair to say, and I'll give credit to Mark Willard. I saw him tweet that, and I was like, I agree with that 100%. I think that some people rather see Kuminga get his opportunity and kind of do the "I told you so." This guy's going to be a superstar.
Derek.
Then actually have him have an impact on the basketball team.
It's the Trey Lance thing.
Yes,
it's the Trey Lance where 100% it is. Speak it into existence. And my opinion of Kuminga hasn't really changed since we've been talking about him all season.
Yep.
Whether it was the deadline passing to give him the contract extension from his rookie contract, whether it was him going off with an injury, like, he's a solid player, very athletic, but he's not super max worthy. And quite frankly, they probably could have gone in a different direction and they might have been better off with someone else. But I think there's just this infatuation with Kuminga because, like, you see him from the G League Ignite. It's like this team that's full of guys who are bound for the pros. All right, the Warriors are taking a chance. They're taking a swing. These are going to be the next 2 guys. And it was kind of similar for Moses Moody, except the thing with Moses Moody is I've seen gradual improvement. Kuminga's had had more potential than Moody did. But Kuminga's also kind of I don't know if you could use this to describe basketball players, but kind of a boomer bust type guy.
Yeah.
It's like he brings the Costco guys, brings the boom whenever he throws down a hammering dunk, but then also has these bust situations where he has like a lapse on defense or doesn't pass the ball or just sticks out in the 3-point line. I don't know, man. I'm indifferent on Kuminga at this point. I think he's a solid addition to have on your team. I'm kind of over discussing him, to be honest, in his career trajectory.
I'm with you on that. We had Antonio Daniels on, and he's the color analyst for the Pelicans. He also does Sirius XM national radio for the NBA. And I asked him, "Do you think Jonathan Kuminga fits on the Warriors?" And he was like, "I don't." Like, it's the same kind of deal with Jalen Brunson on the Mavericks. He needed to go to New York to actually, expand his skills and show off what he actually can do. Jonathan Kuminga doesn't work well as a role player. He's good as a closer coming off the bench, but if you need him to really do what the Warriors do best, which is move the ball around, he's not that type of guy. He needs the ball in his hands. He needs to take over a game. He's the guy that's looking to score 40 points. He's a different version of Jordan Poole, honestly. And I hope that he has an impact during the playoffs. And unless he does, I really believe the Warriors should trade him this offseason. I do. Yeah. I don't think it makes sense anymore. I think they're trying to make something out of, trying to make him into a player on this team that just isn't there. He just doesn't fit. He doesn't play the same style that Steph does, and Draymond and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's really fine. He might have been too passive against the Miami Heat, but it's so difficult when you got a double team coming your way the whole time. Eric Spoelstra had a great game plan. But Jimmy Butler's fine being unselfish and giving the ball off to Steph or Draymond or anybody else on the team, and that opens it up for success. With Jonathan Kuminga, he just wants the ball in his hands. He's not a good... he's not like Moses Moody. Well, yeah, facilitator, but also like Moses Moody, he just knows, like, today it's going to be me where I have to make shots, or today is going to be the day where I have to give it to Steph, or I'm going to have to play defense. Jonathan Kuminga just wants it to be him most of the time. So,
well, I think I think that kind of paints him in like a negative light in a way.
I'm not trying to make it seem like he's a demonstrative player. I just like there has been issues with him and Steve Kerr in the past, but I don't think that's enough where I think he's a bad dude.
I can't blame him for being that way because that's probably how it's been for the entirety of his career.
Yeah.
Right? Like and I'm not talking about the NBA. I'm talking about growing up in the Congo.
Yeah.
Playing for the G League Ignite, it's always get the ball in JK's hands and get out the way. But that's just never how the Warriors have done things. Even with Curry, it's not like that on every possession. Curry's moving off the ball, going around screens, fighting around screens, sometimes rejecting a screen and just going straight back for the three. Like at the end of the game, sure, like Steph takes over, but they figure out the ways to get him open. He doesn't get himself open. At least not a lot of the time. I mean, normally it's done via a screen or, kind of a give and go situation, or like a Draymond Green dribble handoff, or, the flare screens that we're always hearing about on the broadcast, or I'm already forgetting, the split action that we're hearing from Kuminga. Like, there's always those different things. Whereas Kuminga, and I think there's a lot of, whereas Kuminga just wants to get to the rack at will, which he can, but sometimes that could throw the team off rhythm. I don't know. I hate saying like he can't be a superstar, he can't get a max contract, blah blah blah, because it seems like at least outwardly he's always had like the right attitude. I know there's always been those ESPN articles with Shams and him saying that he can't develop under Steve Kerr and kind of calling him out there when that seemed a little bit unnecessary. But I think Willard makes a great point. I think people really want to be validated in what they think of that first round pick instead of just admitting, hey, maybe this guy's not the superstar that we all made him out to be. Maybe he's just another, number 3 or number 4 player on an NBA Finals team at best, not a number 1 guy. Like look at the Rockets. Look at like Amen Thompson. Look at the Thompson brothers. Asar. Look at his twin. Like those are the types of valuable pieces that Kuminga could have been, but I don't think he's played that way throughout his pre-NBA career. And I think it's really been a hard adjustment for him. He's super young still, so he's got time to develop. I've been just going on and on. I'm rambling, Derek.
No, hey, I'm a rambling man sometimes myself.
But I'm just like, I just don't really even know how to dissect it any further than that.
Yeah, I'm tired of the whole conversation because he's not an impactful player for me, or I think all of us, to keep talking about him the way we do. So unless I see him,
like I don't think he's the type of guy that wants to be talked about in the media at all.
I know, but it's just like Trey Lance. It's perfect the way you put it, Stephen. It's such a polarizing topic of either you're a Kuminga guy or you're not a Kuminga guy. And why aren't you a Kuminga guy? You're pro Kuminga, you're anti Steve Kerr. Whatever. My thing is, he's been here for God, how many seasons has it been now?
It's been 5? Since 2021, yeah.
Yeah. And he's yet to make an impact, and people could say like, well, he hasn't been given a fair shot. I disagree with that. I think Jonathan Kuminga needs to have an impactful postseason in order for me to say he should stay on this basketball team. I really think that he's the best trade piece they can offer this offseason in order to get the team better. So, yeah, I would say at this point, I would look to move him in the offseason if nothing else, happens where I think, okay, we have to have this guy. He could be a superstar on a different team, but he needs to realize that Steph Curry needs to be the superstar on this team, and it just doesn't translate very well. Besides that, I felt kind of different about the Warriors this past week with everything I've seen from them losing the Atlanta Hawks game to the Miami game. It just feels to me like, I know that it was kind of ridiculous of me to expect them to roll without Steph Curry, but during that time, I was hoping to see better play from Brandon Pajemski and Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga and even Jimmy Butler, because the Warriors are not going to win a championship with just Steph Curry being the guy. All those guys need to elevate their play, especially guys that really haven't played in playoff series. Moses Moody has in the past, but not that much. Jonathan Kuminga has played sparingly during his tenure as a Warrior during the postseason. Brandon Podziemski has never played in a playoff series. So that's what I was seeing was those guys to, take their play to the next level. But as far as just the Western Conference right now and my worries with the Warriors, yeah, they lost and they're down to the 7th seed. But with the way the conference is right now, I'm not too concerned. I think the teams that would give them the biggest problems would be OKC and Denver. I think Denver is the second best team in the Western Conference right now, despite their deficiencies and them not having great bench play. As long as Jokic is on that team and he's got Jamal Murray, they're a threat to win it all.
Yeah. And then so Aaron Gordon's always the X factor with that team too.
Absolutely. So I would say those are the two teams that I'm like, if the Warriors have to face OKC or Denver in the first round, that's going to be a bitch.
Sure.
If they play the Lakers, if they play the Rockets, if they play Memphis right now, I feel better about it, especially Memphis, because I don't know what the fuck's going on where 9 games remaining in their season, they fired Taylor Jenkins.
Yeah.
I thought Taylor Jenkins was one of the better coaches in basketball. He turned that franchise around with Ja Morant. And I know that there's been a lot of controversy with Ja Morant and everything with the gun or multiple guns, multiple Twitter posts or social media posts, the suspensions, him having the injury last year, them now making the postseason. But to fire Taylor Jenkins with 9 games remaining, like for a playoff-bound team, this has to be the latest I've ever seen a coach being fired.
Yep.
So while it's a head-scratching move, I think it helps the Warriors because the Warriors will see them next Tuesday. So I think it's good for the Warriors in the Western Conference that the other teams are just going through some shit right now.
Yeah, but I think it's a little overstated with where the Grizzlies are at this season. They haven't been good for 2 months. They've only beaten one team that has a winning record since February 3rd, and that was the Mavericks after Kyrie got hurt and after Luka got traded, and when they actually had all their guys hurt. And then, I felt terrible for Clay after that game. I think that was the game where they literally, like Jason Kidd literally went up to the podium and said, I've never been a part of something like that, where they didn't even have anyone else to sub. So I think that was the only game they won. At least against a team with a winning record. So I think it's a little overstated that, this Grizzlies team is where they're at right now because of Taylor Jenkins. Like, I think, does it make sense? No, I think it's kind of like malpractice. But there's a guy I follow named Chris Vernon, who's kind of like the voice of the Memphis Grizzlies. He used to do one of my favorite podcasts with Kevin O'Connor on The Ringer. It was called The Mismatch. They don't really do it. They don't do it anymore because O'Connor went to Yahoo Sports. But Chris Vernon is kind of like the voice of the Grizzly fan. He has this show called like the Grind City Show and all these different things. And week after week, there's something about Taylor Jenkins and his decision making, and it's always something like with that. Whether it's, benching a guy and putting this guy in certain situations is like, what the hell are you doing? Kind of easy stuff you can dissect as a fan. That's like noticeable that you shouldn't do that. And combined with that, the Athletic, obviously, like whenever there's something like this that happens, there's always the trio of Sam Amick and then whoever else that covers that actual team, where they're going to do some piece about what we know with the firing.
Nope,
and they
you're
did
right.
One of those pieces, and there wasn't really anything in there substantial other than, Taylor Jenkins let go of an assistant coach that Ja really liked. But other than that, there wasn't much more to it besides, they just haven't beat good teams. And then obviously there was the thing that happened last week with Desmond Bane and that other player, like where it seemed like he just didn't have much. I don't know if he like lost the locker room in terms of like he lost the motivation with the players, but I think he lost control of it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't doubt any of that, and I don't think that you should keep Taylor Jenkins on just because I think he's a good coach. If you felt this way, you should do it in the offseason. Doing it with 9 games remaining in the regular season and then hoping things get turned around for the postseason is insane to me. And the perception right now looks as if Ja Morant got him fired. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what the perception is. He got Paul West headed. He probably went to the owners and the GM and said, I can't make it work with Taylor Jenkins anymore. Yeah. And to do that with 9 games remaining is ridiculous. You could definitely wait till the offseason to make a move. That's what I would have done.
I think both things can be true. Like you probably should have waited till after the playoffs, but I think it really reached a breaking point, like the point of no return, even with this amount of time remaining. It's a terrible move. And you know what? This season, we're going to look back on that and you're going to wonder, what the hell are you doing? But I guess it had to be done. I don't, it's a pretty, even though like, you know, you can make as much sense of it as possible, with all the ins and outs about why he should have been fired, just the idea that it's happening with this amount of time remaining, I don't know if that's a good business practice.
No, I think it sets you up for failure for the postseason. I know they're going to have a guy on staff that they respect fill in as interim head coach. Right? I think that title is ridiculous right now with the amount of games that are left.
Mm-hmm.
But how could you, when you like, if they go up against Steve Kerr, like, do you really feel confident in the coaching matchup? At least Taylor Jenkins. I mean, Jesus, that playoff series a few years ago with the Grizzlies and Warriors, that was a, no pun intended, a grind in the grindhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were physical. They were being the crap out of the Warriors. The one thing I will say about Taylor Jenkins during his tenure, it was remember we were doing the whole he broke the code thing when Dylan Brooks, what did he do to GP2? He landed on his shoulder and made him miss a few weeks.
Well, he didn't just straight up foul him in the playoffs?
He did. But he did it in an aggressive way, which Steve Kerr went to the podium and he was like, he broke the code, and they all made fun of him. Even you and I think we're like, I understand Steve backing his guy up, but it was a little probably over the top to be like, he broke the code. But then I remember the next game in the series. Remember when Jordan Poole, it looked like he grabbed at Ja Morant's knee, and that turned into a whole thing where Taylor Jenkins is like, well, it looks like Jordan Poole broke the code too. And I was like, you're being childish. That's ridiculous. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the only time where I was like, Taylor Jenkins is being ridiculous. Besides that, I really liked him, but I'm not in that
the 11th
game
of the season. Don't you remember the 11th game of the season this year? When
the 11th game of the season.
Yeah, Draymond went at him because he was going at Zach Edey, and they had a little thing. Then Taylor Jenkins called him out, and Draymond then called out Taylor Jenkins because he said, "You're setting a precedent here for your big man. Like, we big man, we big."
Yeah.
So there's that.
I thought that was more ridiculous on Draymond's part.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, maybe on both sides. I personally think look, he could be a good coach. I didn't like Taylor Jenkins. I thought he was sneaky. I thought he was conniving.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
In what way?
I don't know. Just being super passive aggressive. Like, if you're going to say something, just own it, man. Like, I just didn't like the way that he handled things with the media, or at least handled drama with the media. But there were other things, certain things that have happened this year where he can be very upfront, and clearly he can be a sympathetic guy. But I also think when drama hits, that's when he's kind of like he kind of caves. I didn't like that with Jenkins. I
would say I thought he handled everything particularly well with Ja and the suspension and what he had to deal with everything there.
Sure.
But yeah, if I had to single one thing out from what I remember being on this podcast with you being like, Taylor Jenkins has run me the wrong way with how he acted during that whole series. But besides that, don't think the guy should have lost his job with 9 games remaining. But he'll be a highly sought after coach this offseason. I think him and Mike Brown, and we'll see if I'm assuming Mike Budenholzer gets canned from the Phoenix Suns, but who's to say at this point?
Yeah.
All right. Little jackass of the week, Steven?
Ooh, little jackass of the week. All right.
I'll let you go first because I think I kind of let mine out, and we'll go into a little bit more detail. But do you have a jackass of the week?
I do. And I don't really know, like, who's the jackass in this scenario, to be honest. I'm almost going like with both sides here. I should have had the video ready. Hang on. I'm trying to find it because it happened last night. All right, there we go. Yeah. Let me pull this up. This was on Saturday Night Live with Mikey Madison as the host. That's her name, right? From Honora.
Yeah.
And then Morgan Wallen, the country singer.
So much to Morgan Wallen. I had a wonderful time. Thank you all.
All right, there's the closing credits of SNL.
Watch Morgan Wallen.
All right, Morgan Wallen. He just walks off.
Yep. And look at all their faces. Like they know. Yep, those two. Where'd he go?
Oh, yeah.
So, clearly something happened. And then he ended up posting on his Instagram, get me to God's country, by showing a picture on his private plane.
Yeah.
So I think Morgan Wallen's kind of a jackass of the week for doing that. I think he is a jackass. Like you're really a blue collar guy getting on your private plane, going back to God's country. But then I also think the SNL cast might have had a hand in this too. And I think this kind of just speaks to the divide that we have where if we can't seem to agree politically, that's the guess as to what happened. I don't know. But like you just can't get along. I think it just speaks to how divisive it is nowadays. And I'm not going to act like I'm Mr. Let's all make peace and all this sort of stuff. There's some people I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I just can't even deal with it. But if you're doing something as big as Saturday Night Live, like, I don't know, Morgan Wallen can't be walking off the stage like that. Like that's a disrespect to the show. But at the same time, how did the cast treat him? Like, I wonder who's the jackass of the week in this scenario. So I guess this is more who's the jackass of the week instead of the jackass.
I would say Morgan Wallen, and here's why. I remember watching SNL during the pandemic, and it was a big deal because very few live shows were going on at the time. I think I even remember SNL, they did like a at-home version of the show, which was fun, but like not great, obviously. But they had to do a ton of testing and everything in order for these shows to go on. And Morgan Wallen was supposed to be a guest performer, and there was news or pictures of him at a bar from wherever he's from, making out with some random chicks.
Right.
And the whole thing was, okay, he obviously didn't isolate for a while. He can't be doing the show. So they postponed his appearance. He came on later, I believe, when Jason Bateman was hosting. Because I remember they did a whole sketch about where Jason Bateman played Morgan Wallen, and they made fun of him for, not giving a shit and going out and partying and, making out with random chicks and not self-isolating and not, checking that he had COVID or whatnot. And I remember like it didn't go over well. Like he was part of the sketch, but it was like a weird deal. He was like, "Oh, you guys are making fun of me for, what I do in my private time or whatever. Or, I don't vibe with the whole COVID restriction thing." So I thought it was weird he was coming back. And I don't know what he has said politically, but SNL, they're a show that leans left, and they're gonna make fun of certain things. I always wonder when Shane Gillis hosts. Shane Gillis at one point was going to be the host or a cast member on SNL. I wonder how certain cast members feel about him. I know that I believe
he says on his podcast that they all he said they're all really cool. Like he's never had a problem with anyone there.
I know, but like I could be wrong about this. I've read this, so if I'm wrong, I apologize. I believe Bowen Yang will not appear with Dave Chappelle in sketches. I could be totally wrong about that. But I think there's rumors out there that some cast members feel uncomfortable when certain hosts are there. So I don't know, I think probably Morgan Wallen doesn't like New York City, doesn't like the vibe, doesn't like the political climate of it all, and was there, did his thing, got his paycheck, and then got the fuck out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so, you're kind of a jackass if you do that. Just, say thank you.
Should make the nice. Should shake some hands, some hugs.
Right.
It's tradition at SNL.
Yes.
Okay. What's that?
Respect the show.
Exactly. If you're going to be on,
if you don't like them, fine. Just respect the show.
Yeah, it was weird at the end of that video. Kenan Thompson and Ego Wodum turn and be like, "Oh, he just dipped, huh?"
Yeah.
All right. The whole Stephen A versus LeBron thing has been entertaining, no doubt. So first and foremost, what do you think of LeBron going on with Pat McAfee? I think that's pretty awesome that he got that exclusive. Not many guys would get a hour sit down with LeBron James. I guess they taped it the day before he was playing in Indiana against the Pacers. So LeBron gets comfortable on shows, especially Pat McAfee. He just let it fly and dropped a couple of fuck bombs and was going in on Brian Windhorst and Stephen A. Smith. What'd you make of? I didn't watch the whole interview, but what'd you make of the clips that you saw?
Well, no, I watched it, and for the most part, he always comes off as a very, very down to earth, right? But that Windhorst moment really rubbed me the wrong way.
Steven, you there?
It came off as, I guess, for lack of a better term, it was really childish. It was middle school type stuff where it's like I don't know, like I don't want to say you're friends with somebody, because he obviously said I'm not best friends with Brian Windhorst, but like when you say it's middle school shit where you're like friends with someone and then you see a cooler group and then you act like you weren't friends with that guy.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It was very reminiscent of that. And Brian Windhorst, he's covered you since high school, man, and he's been propping you up. Like, he's never acted like he's your best friend. Like, and I hate that McAfee just laughed at it. Like, I know he hates ESPN, but like, dude, come on. Like, you can't push back on anything. You're just going to laugh at everything LeBron says. And I mean, I know you're getting an hour interview with him and he's LeBron, but like, that rubbed me the wrong way. But other than that, like, he's always come off as very down to earth to me. And he always seemed like he'd be a cool guy, but the Windhorst thing was just, to me, was wrong.
Yeah, I didn't like that. And the irony of it, because, Pat McAfee has this interview with Aaron Rodgers weekly during football season. And Aaron Rodgers has called out LeBron James about his political views and how he'll speak out about one thing, but won't speak about, China and the NBA's affiliation with it. But Pat McAfee, he's become the platform for athletes to come on and shit on the media. And McAfee kind of acts in a way like he's not with the media, even though he is. He definitely is. And if, McAfee, if he's going to act like he doesn't like ESPN and he shits on these producers or executives that call out his show, then why are you on? That's why I never understood him going to ESPN in the first place. I understand the money aspect of it all, but still could have, what was he on, FanDuel before or whatever? Like, you could have been this renegade badass and still, had all these big stars. I don't think just because you're on ESPN now that helps you get LeBron James. If anything, it probably would have hurt it. But I think that, LeBron sees this as like a different platform where like it's not gotcha journalism. Like, Pat McAfee is going to do softballs to anybody that comes on. He kind of kisses their ass, which that happens sometimes when you want an exclusive interview. I get that. But yeah, I do understand Stephen A. and Brian Windhorst being put off by the interview because they've paid their dues. They've been covering LeBron James a hell of a lot longer than Pat McAfee's been doing this show.
Yeah. So and Windhorst has mostly put out correct info when it comes to like citing LeBron stuff. But then, like, when LeBron was asked about his off-season workouts, his off-season training, that he spends over $1 million on his body to keep it healthy in the off-season, he's like, hey, I don't even know who put that out there. I don't know where that came from. That came from your best friend. That came from Maverick Carter.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like, I just thought that was a little hypocritical. But other than that, and it's like, of course, McAfee's people don't know where it came from, because I don't really think they do a ton of research going into it, or maybe they do know where it came from and they just wanted to act like they didn't, because it was pretty well documented that Maverick Carter said that.
Yeah, that's probably the case, and they just want to maintain a good relationship.
It'd be like Christian McCaffrey saying, like, it'd be like Christian McCaffrey saying, well, how does everyone know what my offseason regimen is? Your dad told us, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and that's like why I think, this being on ESPN, I'm sure Brian Windhorst and Stephen A. Smith are like, we really got to promote this shit when they're talking about us. Right. And that's part of the story. That's why the NBA media is nauseating at times because this is what has been the topic the entire week is Stephen A versus LeBron. As far as LeBron, him saying like he went in on Stephen A and made fun of him and, saying like he can't wait to talk about me. Like the fact that he was like, I don't want to talk about this. That's bullshit. He's probably sitting in his tidy whities in his house right now, eating ice cream, so happy that I'm bringing his name up. But look, for LeBron to be like, well, I don't have any problem with anybody criticizing me. That's just part of your job. You do have a problem with that, LeBron. You do. You brought it up a couple of weeks ago when they brought up, Anthony Edwards not being the face of the league, and you're like, I can understand why, because the whole NBA media shits on current players and compares them to the past. So you do have an issue with that. Be honest about that. Besides that, I didn't really have a problem with anything in the interview. He's entitled to do whatever he wants. He's LeBron fucking James. It's the same thing as Aaron Rodgers shitting on Adam Schefter or Diana Rossini or Ian Rappaport. He can do that, and the whole time, even though Pat McAfee is friends with all three of those people, he'll still laugh the whole time because he wants to maintain that relationship with Aaron Rodgers. As far as Stephen A. clapping back at him, I have no issue with anything Stephen A. Smith has said this week, honestly. I think it's fair. I think for a guy in the media, when he's getting called out to defend himself, totally in the right to do that. But it makes him look weak, and it makes him look insecure, and it makes him look insane, honestly. I haven't had an issue with anything he said besides, had LeBron James swung on me, I would have put hands on this man. No, you wouldn't have. You just got paid that day.
It was the opposite of that. He said, if you would have put hands on me, I would have swung at him.
Yes, you're right. And that's fine to feel that way, but I wouldn't say that. It's kind of the same deal as like Charles Barkley a few years ago on the TNT show saying to Draymond Green, sometimes I just want to punch him in the face, man. It's like, you can't be saying that shit. It makes you look insane. So for Stephen A. to say that, and then for him to be like, I agree with him when he says he's passive-aggressive, he's two-faced, which is why I don't like him, and he doesn't like me. That's fair. But you're coming across really crazy. You're looking like a jackass. The best thing to do is just to let this go, because every day it becomes something where they're promoting the interview on McAfee with LeBron James, and like Chris Mad Dog Russo's like, props to Pat for getting that interview. I don't think anybody on this panel would have been able to get a 1-hour interview with LeBron James. And then Stephen A's like, if I would have broached the subject with him, he probably would have put hands on me. It's like, dude, you're getting really too defensive about it. I still think Stephen A. did nothing wrong with criticizing LeBron James. Maybe the whole as a father thing sounds bad, but at the end of the day, if Bronny James is playing in the NBA and LeBron James orchestrated it for him to have this NBA career when he probably shouldn't have, then it's fair game to talk about. But I think for Stephen A. and for the sake of his reputation, which I'm sure he doesn't give a shit because his reputation was tarnished a long time ago, he looks ridiculous this entire week.
Right. I agree. And that's why I have more respect for Brian Windhorst, because he's just kind of brushing it over. He's saying he gives just a quick 50 seconds on it. They were doing a hoop collective with him, Bontemps, and McMahon, Brian Windhorst, and the Tims. And they were talking about, like, the NBA, creating a new league in Europe and Adam Silver's whole press conference and everything. But they did open it up, and McMahon was clearly pissed off that LeBron said that about Windhorst, because that's his guy. They're buddies. Yeah. And McMahon kept wanting to go at it, and Windhorst is like, no, we're done. We're moving on. Let's talk about Adam Silver, blah, blah, blah. McMahon was really pissed off.
And I'll say this too. I thought it was lame of Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith to, for whatever reason, insinuate that LeBron James, this is kind of like a dicey thing to bring up, but I'll bring it up. What the hell? Kendrick Perkins went to a whole thing about his podcast and how, well, you see, you had, Steve Nash on the podcast a year ago, and now you got, you had JJ Redick on the podcast a year ago, and now you got Steve Nash hosting it. How's my Kendrick Perkins?
It's actually not bad.
Yeah, you like that? It's kind of like a slower Cosby, honestly.
It really is.
You had JJ Redick on the podcast a year ago. Now you got Steve Nash. There's a lot of good people out there. Chandler Parsons, he started listing them. And then Stephen A goes, I agree. And I'm not going to say what I want to say. Are we really saying LeBron James only wants to be interviewed by white people? Like this is insane.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's insane.
Yeah, it's too much. It's way too much. But this is the problem with the network, though. Like ESPN is supposed to be the foremost voice in sports, and yet what we're getting is podcast drama.
Yes.
Like they put a podcast on with McAfee Show. That's all they did is they put a podcast on. It's not a sports show. They don't show highlights. They don't show what happened the night before. You have Major League Baseball's opening day, and the biggest story is Stephen A versus LeBron. It's wrong. This is why people are put off by the network, at least in my estimation. But it seems like the average Joe enjoys it because they still have incredibly high ratings. So who am I to say that people don't like it? But that's why personally I can't do it anymore. It's because it's all about podcast drama.
Well, dude, I mean, that's media today. It is podcast. Like the show that you just brought up, Brian Windhorst and the Tims. Yeah. That's a podcast. It's nothing to that show. It's just their faces and microphones.
Right.
Like, I'll be honest.
Talking about substantial things. Like that's the crazy part is they didn't focus on it. They actually talked about, I would have much rather watched that and learning about the NBA and what Adam Silver means exactly. And also they talked a little bit of playoffs. Like it's not that. And except for, the Pat McAfee show, all right, you bring up something good someone did, and then you clap it up, and then you have your producer come on and do his crappy impression, but you got a good costume for him, so he looks like the guy. Like, it's just, I can't.
Ty Schmidt actually does pretty good impressions, I will say.
I don't think so.
Really?
I think they're kind of trash.
Really?
Yeah.
I think his Mel Kiper is not bad.
Mel Kiper actually pretty good.
See? Mel Kiper's good, and Lou Holtz, his impressions of those guys are pretty good.
It's ridiculous. But I'm kind of over the whole thing. And thank goodness I don't watch that network anymore, man. Like I'll keep an eye on it for certain things. And obviously I'll watch live games, but yeah, can't do it.
Yeah, I think that's just podcasts are what people want these days. It's how younger people consume media. I mean, like, let's be honest. That's kind of what we're, like the podcastification of sports radio. That's what Dirty Work is. It's basically a podcast for 4 hours, which can get tiresome sometimes. But yeah, that's what people want, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why we're doing this. All right, pop culture catch up. Steven, been watching anything?
Yeah, we got another episode of White Lotus. We finished Severance.
What'd you think?
Oh, it's amazing. But yeah. Mr. Milchick. I love Mr. Milchick.
Oh, Mr. Milchick's a great character. They're all great characters.
Big Mr. Milchick guy. I don't think, like you, it's the best episode to ever be put on television. It's good.
I would say it's one of them. I thought with how cinematic it was and the stakes and the intensity of the whole thing, I was on the edge of my seat. Not to give spoilers or anything, but like the ending definitely was like, oh my God, no, what are you doing? Yeah, but I get it. I totally understand.
Yeah. Yeah, you got another season you got to get through here.
Exactly.
But yeah, it definitely leaves you kind of wondering what's going to happen next. What else have we cut? I mean, I watched Denora finally.
What'd you think?
I get what you mean by it saying it's like a stripper version of Uncut Gems. It's just so chaotic. I laughed a lot, actually.
It's funny.
I was cracking up with the Russian dad's like henchman, basically. Yeah. Mainly the one who got kicked in the face. I'm kind of spoiling it, I guess, but yeah, mainly the one who got kicked in the one with the slick back hair and the beard. Yeah, he was cracking me up throughout that movie because there's just so much going on, and I do love how they had, obviously they're speaking Russian, so they had the subtitles going on at the same time as the English dialogue, so you're getting like everything, literally everything. I thought that was pretty well done. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
No, it's a good movie, but were you kind of with me on it's a good movie, but I don't think it's like a best picture movie.
It didn't feel best picture-ish, but I don't know. These people see something differently in movies than we do. So whatever it is that they did that maybe is really, really hard to do that we just don't understand, then kudos to them.
I'd say probably the ending is what got them the Oscar because I thought like the movie had a certain feel for most of the time, and then the ending happens. You're like, oh man, this is getting deep.
Yeah.
And that was like, all right, yeah, this is a good movie.
Yeah, yeah. Although I didn't really get the screenplay award though. I'm like a screenplay, the hell, like that got it for best screenplay.
Okay. Yeah, well, there wasn't like any like poignant moments with dialogue. It was just very real. I think like that's the thing where the Academy looks at like just is it authentic? Is it how people talk? And 100%, I would say yeah, that's how people in Brooklyn talk to each other.
Right, for sure.
Speaking of Apple TV with Severance, their new show, The Studio with Seth Rogen. I watched the first 2 episodes. It's fucking awesome.
Nice.
It's very fast paced. It's basically like, did you ever see Babylon, Steven? The movie with. Okay, so I would say it's a mix of that with Birdman. It's very much like Birdman, where most of the shots are one long tracking shot where you follow Seth Rogen going through a studio and the chaotic nature of everyone needing something from him. It's very old school Hollywood like, which I really like that era of movies. So it's done in that style. And yeah, I thought for Seth Rogen, like he gets like it's very like Curb Your Enthusiasm when they get like, people playing themselves and Seth Rogen's playing a character, but he's got Martin Scorsese in the first episode and Charlize Theron. And it's basically like them saying movies suck these days. It's like an honest way of being like, so many people want to make art and great films, and movie studios just want to make money. So everything's shitty these days. And that's what the show is talking about. And I think like with how Ben Stiller is making Severance into like his, I guess, opus or like whatever you want to call it, where you go from like being a comedy legend to then becoming like a great auteur. I think Seth Rogen's kind of doing this where it's still a fun, goofy show, but the way that he shoots the show is incredible. Nothing I've ever seen before. Like I thought This Is the End and The Interview were solid flicks, but directing wise, like camera angles and shit, not great. This is like Seth Rogen, like I think growing up and like trying to be like a Scorsese or anybody else that he's probably looked up to in his career.
Yeah, there's too many shows, man.
I know. There's a ton of shows.
Too many damn shows.
Okay, a quick update. The Giants are leading 6-3 from a couple of RBIs from I think it's Willie Adames who got them on the board.
Willie Adames got a sacrifice fly. Elliot Ramos also drove in another runner. And Matt Chapman's been awesome defensively.
So there you go. So they're looking like they'll get away with a win today, maybe, as we go to the top of the 9th. So we'll see if the Giants get the win here. Real quick, I did not bring this up, but I wanted to bring it up in the show. The NFL meetings are going on this weekend, I think early next week, and there's a possibility that the tush push is banned. Diana Rossini brought this up. She's getting the sense that some people believe it's going to happen. And I just saw a quote from Nick Sirianni, and he said, this is Mike Garafolo catching up with him, and he goes, we'll see how it goes. All I can say is Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen, and Kellen Moore better vote for it to stay. They are all head coaches. They are in the head coach position right now because of that play. So all 3, I better have 3 votes there. At least I know we have 4, meaning it'd be for the Eagles, the Colts, the Cardinals, and the Saints. And I don't blame Nick Sirianni for feeling this way because I think it's bullshit. I do think that if they outlaw this play, I think it's just the rest of the league just not knowing how to stop it. I know there was tons of frustration with the NFC Championship games and the Commanders just going off sides every single play. I would say if you're going to play the Philadelphia Eagles and you're going to be in the NFC East, you better game plan for it. Like a great comparison the other day was on our text line when someone said, this is kind of like MLB banning the shift. You can't, like, it's just strategy. You need to learn how to adapt to it. So I think I don't know if this is going to happen. It's not set in stone, but if they do outlaw the tush push, I think it's fucking lame.
Well, the new thing with baseball now is going to be these torpedo bats.
Saw that too with the Yankees yesterday. Yep.
They hit another one, by the way. Now it's 13 home runs in 2 days.
Who was it? Nestor Cortez gave up 3 home runs in 3 pitches.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, dude, I didn't even know Paul Goldschmidt was on the Yankees right now, or Cody Bellinger. So,
yeah,
but for those two guys, bang bang, and then Aaron Judge, bang. Like, what, they went 20-9 yesterday? Good Lord.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, I think they should. I mean, baseball's ruled that legal, but there's something illegal about that. It doesn't feel legal, but clearly the Yankees have found a loophole. So I think every team, kind of like the tush push, should figure out a way to get around that because it's clear that they were ahead of the game.
Yeah, with the baseball bats, I wonder if something will come up with that, because to alter the bats in a way, they look
baseball,
like
Manfred already ruled it legal though.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that's going to come out about it.
So the rest of the league can make those bats. Like that's the thing. Like the Eagles, like no one can replicate what the Eagles do with the tush push. Like the Bills try to do it, they can't. Every team is trying to do what the Eagles do, and they can't do it. Every team in Major League Baseball can get those uncircumcised looking dongs of a bat. Am I alone there? They kind of have like a round base, kind of looking like a,
Why does it have to be uncircumcised?
Because that's what it kind of looks like.
Oh, okay.
You ever seen one, Steven?
Have I?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I hate that I brought up this torpedo bat.
Yeah. I think I'm catching on to something, Mr. English.
Get me out of this podcast now.
All right. Yep. No. My buddy Alex, he's English, told me all about his schmegma. Anyway, okay. And on that note, guys, thanks for watching today. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Ernie 1. What the hell's going on here? Yeah, I know. That's a good time to end the show. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. To Ernie 1, to Ernie 2, Rock a New Era, to who else? Techie was in here. To I think that was it today. No AJ Cruz. A little bit of skills. There you go. All right, guys. We'll see you on Wednesday, and we'll do a little bit of going over. We'll get into the draft a little bit. Me going into quarterbacks, what I like in Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, and even Jackson Dart. And we might bring out an old game we played from back in the day. Steven's thrilled, where I finally pretend I'm a draft guru and I try to sound like Daniel Jeremiah or Mel Kiper or anybody else. Until then, we'll see you Wednesday. Steven, say what you always say.
It's just our opinion, man. Get me out of here.